Hey there folks, and welcome to my review of the 2019 FIA World Rally Championship. The calendar going into it boasted 14 rounds across 4 continents spanning around 11 months, and it was coming off the back of one of the closest seasons we've had in ages. Decided down under in the final round in Australia between Sébastien Ogier, Thierry Neuville and Ott Tanak. One that really went down to the last few stages as Neuville and Tanak both went off the road. However, going into Monte, following a season launch at Autosport where we started seeing permanent driver numbers for the first time, we didn't really know what to expect. We knew that the Toyota was the fastest car out there, having been the reigning manufacturers' champions, but we didn't know what Seb Ogier was going to do with Citroën. I didn't know what Hyundai were going to do, having Sébastien Loeb in their stable. The first round, well, it turned up the same kind of order that we had in the championship last season, with Seb leading home Thierry, leading home Tanak. However, the battle between Thierry and Seb went down to the final stage, and it was one of the closest margins in WRC history. Typically, those are the kind of rallies that Thierry ends up winning, if we look at, say, Argentina 2017, and of course Sardinia 2018. But this time it was Seb who brought Citroën's 100th victory in the WRC at their 100th anniversary event in Monte-Carlo. Toyota was starting to struggle a bit. They had problems with their wheels just braking. Both Tanak and Meek were affected by this. But then as we went towards Sweden, there was a 4th Yaris WRC. It was for Marcus Gronholm, 2-time World Rally Champion, doing his final event. And to hear such communications as the stage is clear for Marcus, for somebody like myself, and I've been a rallying fan all my life, so when Gronholm was actually winning titles back in 2002, for example, I remember that. It's iconic. And it shows the change in generations. Tanak was in control in his own Yaris WRC, though there were challenges from 2 Finns, Teemu Salonen and Esa-Pekka Lappi. Salonen was running strongly until a, roll spin in Vargassen ended up damaging the roll cage, though it was magically repaired. Lappi managed to bring home 2nd place, while Sébastien Ogier ended up finishing well down the order, due to going off early on into the snowbanks. However, what was interesting as well was Craig Breen was there in the service park, and we'll come back to that in a bit. Now on to Mexico, and Ogier was pretty much asserting a charge towards the lead. Whilst he wasn't leading the championship, that was Tanak, it was getting close. And it was going to be something that started to show a bit of a challenge in the title race, with those two having won the first 3 rounds, and Ogier seeming like he was going to be able to challenge more and more. The Citroën seemed like it was going to be stronger and stronger again. However, we went to Corsica, a tarmac rally, and the C3 was almost nowhere. Whilst Ogier did end up picking up a podium, it was largely through luck. He wasn't particularly happy with how he ended up picking up the overall 2nd place. Elfyn Evans seemed like the strongest driver out there. He was battling with Ott Tanak most of the rally until Tanak suffered a puncture. And then on the final stage of the rally, Evans' tyre delaminated, and Thierry Neuville picked up the win. Whilst it was still a good, strong rally for Thierry, this really was Elfyn's strongest challenge of the season, and I'll talk more about why in the next couple of events. Because in Argentina, for example, Evans had a massive crash. Tanak, again, broke down, battery failure, and Hyundai managed to deliver a 1-2, Thierry doing the double, and Andreas Mikkelsen coming home in 2nd place. This meant that Thierry had essentially inherited the lead of the Drivers' Championship, and it was going to be quite interesting to see how this would go as we went into the next round, the all-new Rally Chile. And it didn't go well for Thierry. A massive roll on the Saturday at high speed, which luckily they got away, himself and Nicolas Gilsel, with very minor injuries. But it meant that the title race was going right back towards Ogier and Tanak. Chris Meek, Tanak's teammate, who had a strong start to the season, ended up picking up a penalty for removing his windscreen in between the time controls for a stage. And meanwhile, whilst Tanak was able to deliver quite a commanding victory in Chile, it was a battle of Seb versus Seb, as Ogier challenged Loeb. And we saw the 9-time champion against the 6-time champion. That was quite a battle. Going on to Portugal, it was going to be the penultimate entry for Loeb in 2019, and he was basically out in Friday by the afternoon. Save for Danny Sordo, both of them with issues such as fuel issues, which ended up putting them down in order. Teemu Sininen also had problems with brake failure, which showed some impressive style in the way that he was navigating the rest of the stages. In the power stage, Gus Greensmith and Chris Meek both crashed out. And the power stage was one that was quite interesting, because of the debate around Andrea Adamo's use of team orders. Now, Adamo had, because of the fact that Loeb and Sordo were already essentially out of any kind of point-scoring contention, he'd already asked them to take penalties to take them further down the road order so they could create more dust for the competitors around Thierry, so Thierry could have a strong title challenge. However, in the power stage, there was a plan for Sordo to pull over and come back out ahead of Meek, kicking up more and more dust for Meek, slowing him down and potentially messing up the road order for a few other Toyota drivers, or so on. But because of these crashes, and because of how long the break was, I think it was something like an hour or two, the break while they recovered Meek's car, it meant that there were such performances as a 6th place for Carlo Rompera with his second WRC2 Pro win. Then we went across to Sardinia, and again it seemed like there were rocks that were deciding these rallies. Whilst Toyota had a 4th car again with Juho Hänninen, we ended up seeing people hitting so many different rocks, such as Sebastian Ogier, and a rare crash for Ogier. Thierry ended up struggling with the handling of the car and going on at a couple of junctions. Not similar to at Monte-Carlo, though that was largely to do with a pace note issue. But every single Toyota had some kind of power steering trouble. And the last one to have that was Ott Tanak on the power stage. He ended up losing the rally win to Danny Sordo, and ended up finishing behind Teemu Sininen as well, who picked up a 2nd place. Then we went across to Finland, and in the meantime, Elfyn Evans ended up with an injury in the non-championship Rally Estonia that so many drivers were competing in. Gus Greensmith stepped up to take over as the debut of the new Fiesta R5 came in, and Eric Camerly drove that, both in Finland and in Germany, as Greensmith deputised for Evans. Craig Breen, remember I mentioned him in Sweden? He was back in. He was back in with the Hyundai. Hayden Paddon was going to be in a 3rd Ford Fiesta, but a crash in the pre-event test meant that he wasn't able to do the event. And it was quite an interesting rally to have a look at. Tanak was seemingly dominant, but Esa-Pekka Lappi was very competitive in the Citroen again. And Jari-Matti Latvala brought home a strong 3rd place, though I think we all remember Ogier's massive jump at the end of the rally. Going on to Germany now, and it was Toyota domination with a 1-2-3, as Ott led home Chris Meek, who led home Jari-Matti Latvala. And again, they had a 4th car. Takamoto Katsuta got his first drive. It was a very interesting rally, Germany. We saw problems such as, for example, a punch-up for Thierry Neuville in a Panzerplatte stage. And it threw up all kinds of surprises from start to finish, such as Mads Osberg's close call with a fan who fell down in front of the car as he was going by. Then we went to Turkey, and what was a Toyota 123 became a Citroen 1-2. Toyota were very strong in Turkey last season, the toughest rally, surprisingly, given the fact that they have the most fragile car. However, it was Sebastian Ogier and Julian Ingrassia picking up what was their 3rd win of the season. Only their 3rd win. It's surprising because they won the first 2 of them in the first 3 rallies, so we thought they're going to be competitive, they're going to be winning rallies all season long, but Yeah, this was their third win of the season. Tanak ended up breaking down again with issues for the car, this time in the road section. And Thierry Neuville lost a few minutes as well with a low-speed roll. But it was a very tough rally in a lot of different senses. Pontus Tiedemann, for example, was getting used to the car in his next outing in the Fiesta, having been in it for the Monte and for Sweden. And Gus Greensmith in the Fiesta R5 Mark II picked up another win in the WRC2 Pro category despite a massive crash right at the end of the rally. And we went to World Rally GB, and for me that was the first taste of world rallying. I'd been to rounds of the British Rally Championship. My hometown actually had a round of it, which was once won by Jari-Matti Latvala. But it was also something where I could see all of these impressive feats of machinery and of skill and driving with my own eyes. Like I go to say at the end of the video as well, you can check out links in the description below for my content on the WRC. It was another strong victory for Tanak, who should have won it 12 months prior. But a issue in the Sweet Lamb stage ended up meaning that he, well, didn't. As he led home this time around, Thierry Neuville and Sébastien Ogier. Kalle Rothenperä as well won WRC2 Pro. But the thing that stood out more for me was the Solbergs. As Petter Solberg and Phil Mills had their last rally together, it was the end of Petter's farewell tour. And Oliver Solberg had his first rally. Petter was, third after the first stage at Alton Park, and ended up bringing home a strong WRC2 victory. And honestly, I was filled with tears watching it as Petter came across the line and watching him on the start ramp saying all of his thank yous. But it was amazing to be able to meet people such as Jari-Matti, Elfyn Evans, outside of the drivers, meeting people like David Richards and Marcus Gronholm even. Those are some things I'll never forget. We went on to Spain, and Ott Tanak won his first World Championship. However, just as the weekend was getting underway, David Evans published the article which turned out to be true, that Ott Tanak was going to be moving to Hyundai for 2020. Ogier's title hopes ended with a failure on his car in Friday morning. Whilst he was able to recover to get some points in the finish, it was Tanak's late charge, especially in the power stage, to secure what was going to be a third place, but ended up being a second place, that won him the title. It was also not exactly a best rally for Citroën, as Esa-Pekka Lappi's car burnt out. Again, very early on. As we looked to the final round in Australia, we were wondering what was going to happen with the title race for the manufacturers. Was it going to be Toyota doing the double, or was it going to be Hyundai picking up the manufacturer's title? However, the final round wasn't to be. The devastating wildfires in the New South Wales region of Australia ended up meaning that the event got cancelled. Whilst there was originally a revised route that was going to be around 90 kilometres running over only a handful of stages, it was decided for the best interests of everyone in the area, the competitors, the fans and residents, to cancel the event. We saw such amazing things happening though, the kind of philanthropic side of the WRC, as drivers participated in charity drives and donated to the local causes. Hyundai's championship victory, they celebrated it, but it was a bit bittersweet given what was going on in Australia at the time, and is still going on today. I'll put a link in the description below, as well as for all the videos, for an article where you can find places to donate to help with appeals. In the post-season, we found that Toyota had signed, following the departure of Tanak, Sébastien Ogier, Elfyn Evans and Kalle Rothenperä. This was announced a week after Citroën announced they were leaving the WRC, citing Ogier as the reason. And now we're sitting here about a month before the season begins again in Monte-Carlo. not knowing who M Sport have, but knowing that they have 3 cars in for Monte-Carlo. And honestly, I can't wait for that. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you got through all of this video and you enjoyed what I said, even if you didn't agree with me, please hit the like button. It really means a lot to me, and it means this video gets more and more promotions and gets spread further and further across the echelons of YouTube. If you really did enjoy this content and want to see more rallying content, motorsport content, sim racing content, please hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me as well. This year's been a massive year for me, as I've talked about in so many videos, and I probably will be talking about it again tomorrow. And yeah, thank you. I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.